Okay, my dear listeners, we're right back again. So here, now it's at 8 o'clock. So I would like to give the control back to my best partner, Yana. Please, it's your time.
Okay, our dear listeners, because we already entered 8 o'clock and we already promised you to invite someone who is really amazing with her beautiful voice to give us educational session from Toastmasters International. Please welcome Miss Lisa Octavia. Hi, Miss Lisa.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Miss Lisa. How are you today?
I'm feeling so excited for this talk this morning.
I heard this is your first time to talk in radio, right?
That's right.
Okay, are you nervous?
Well, I would say that I'm slightly nervous because it's my first time after all, but to beat that nervousness, I think I'm more towards like excited to share my experience to all the listeners here.
Oh, nice to hear that. Okay, today's topic is inspire your audience, correct? And we are going to listen to Miss Lisa educational session about how to inspire the audience through your voice and public speaking ability. So everyone please turn on your volume and get your notes ready because we are going to listen for Miss Lisa Octavia. The time is yours.
Thank you very much, Mbak Yana and Mas Isak, for the
Yes.
warm greeting. It's such a pleasure for me to be here. So, hi, listeners. My name is Lisa Octavia. I am a teacher and also a freelance public speaking coach and also a freelance copywriter. So, it's really my pleasure to be here. Well, today my topic is inspire your audience. Some people might think, oh, I'm not even a public speaker. Like, I'm not even a professional public speaker. Why do I need to inspire my audience? I do not find any essence in it. But little did they know that actually we need public speaking in every part of our life, whether you're a student, a professional, a teacher, lecturer, salesperson, project manager, no matter what your occupation is. So let me give you an example. A team leader would like to speak to his members. What does he need to do the most? Of course, he needs to have good communication skills in order to inspire them to work for him. Without communication and public speaking skills, trust me, it's nearly zero chance for us to be a good leader. It is basically the basic foundation in all kinds of jobs in the world. I hope it actually opens our mind a little bit about communication skills and public speaking skills. And I would like to give you another example. So let's say if you're a student, you need to deliver a presentation or a toast or a valedictorian speech, for example, and you need to ace an important interview. It's highly crucial to master this specific skill in order to survive in this fast-changing world. So yes, inspire your audience is really one of those skills that you need the most. And today, I am really pleased to share some of my experiences and things that I've learned and observed so far. And I'm also going to give away some public speaking tips.
That's what we are waiting for.
Yes, and on how to basically inspire our audience. And hopefully, by the end of this session, all of you, our dear listeners, could apply them whenever needed. I really hope that you could get some major takeaway through this talk.
Definitely.
All right, so the first big question that we would like to answer here, what does it mean to inspire people? To inspire someone has more to do with influencing or changing the way they think and feel about themselves, so that they are willing to take actions on their own. When we want to inspire others, we need to tap into their values and the desire that people hold. I would like to share a little bit of my experience. So I've worked in a different types of organization, and I must say that in order to function effectively, we really need to inspire each other. I used to work in a company where everything is transactional. So you do your job, you get paid, and that's it. But to be honest, that's not how society works in the long term, right?
Yeah. Agree.
When we work with others, we are also looking for additional value. So it's not only about salary, big company. We also need values, connection, and more importantly, growth. So that's basically what keeps us going in life, in our career. Well, to inspire means to make someone feel that they want to do something and can do it. So they feel empowered. When people are inspired, they feel energized and motivated, and they want to be the best version of themselves. They could even move a mountain if they're inspired enough. Yeah. So I would say that inspiring others is very important in every path of our life, although, of course, it is definitely not an easy task. In terms of public speaking, when you are an inspiring speaker, it makes you an inspiring leader. It's easy to sell your ideas when you're inspiring. It's easy to motivate your team, and it will be easier also to persuade others to reflect on their lives and see them in a new way. I would like to quote from Frank Arrigazzi. We are surrounded by infinite amounts of opportunities to inspire other people and bring total joy into our lives at the same time. So when we inspire people, we also bring joy to our life because that's when we feel like we're fulfilled. That's what it means by inspiring people. So of course, the impact is not only for others, but it's also for our self-growth and fulfillment. And the biggest question of the century, how to inspire our audience? Are you excited to know
Yeah,
tips?
Of
That's
course.
All right. So the first thing that I would like to discuss here, or I would like to let you know here, is by sharing stories. So there are several points that I would like to highlight when it comes to storytelling. First of all is the misconception or misperception that follows it. And secondly, I will talk about the reason why it's important. And last one, how to share stories in a talk or a speech effectively. So without further ado, I guess we could just jump into the first point, which is the misperception. So when we actually share our personal stories in speeches, talks, or presentations, some people think that, oh, we are actually revealing our struggles and appearing unprofessional. That's not pretty at all. However, when we believe in this perception, it is actually a missed opportunity to connect with our audience. So here I am trying to dismiss the misperception by telling all of you here, this is exactly what we need. We all love stories. That's the reason why we are so engaged in K-drama or Hollywood movies.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We would like to know everybody's experience. We would like to know, okay, what comes next? It actually excites us, right? So, secondly, I would say that stories actually appeal to emotions and value systems. So in order to inspire someone, we need to make them feel something. We could make our listeners laugh by throwing like some kind of humorous speeches or lines. And we could also make them cry by telling them some kind of like inspiring stories while you were struggling, but then you came up like stronger. We could also make them upset or do anything. So we need to ensure that we make our audience feel. That's the priority. I watched Taylor Swift's speech during the New York University 2022 commencement. And I was impressed by how beautifully she slipped in anecdotes. Anecdotes is actually stories. In the technical term, it is called anecdotes. And her speech would not have been as inspiring if she had not told her personal stories. And I believe I'm not the only one who noticed. Have you all watched, by the way, Mbak Yana and Mas Isak?
Yeah, now
I'm not yet. Not yet. I haven't watched it yet. Sorry.
That's all right. If you haven't yet, make sure you watch it to prove this point.
Okay.
All right. So what I observed there, she was able to make the audience laugh, clap for her, and I even noticed that some actually shed tears. So for me myself, if I were there in the commencement of New York University, I was like the future students, I would feel like some kind of joy, excitement, and wow, that was really inspiring. So that small stories could make really big impact. So storytelling is basically the heart of inspiring speeches or talks that will definitely accomplish emotional appeal. Well, some people ask, can we just tell a story about some famous people out there? Well, I would say we could try, but our audience have perhaps heard the same thing over and over again. So the impact might not be as big as if we tell them our personal stories. So like famous people's story, like how Thomas Alva Edison invented light bulbs after countless attempts. It's a cliche. Like we heard it like 100 times. But imagine if you're able to tell your own story, something that your audience would not be able to Google. That's the real value of the story, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So stories that basically expose our human flaws and vulnerabilities are often what inspire people. And I think people must agree that life isn't only about a bed of roses. There are many things that drag us down, and people would like to know if we all experience the same thing and how exactly we overcome the crisis. They want to learn from what you've been through. But of course, we would like to stay true to ourselves by sharing true stories of our life as well. We wouldn't like to make up stories just for the sake of being interesting or engaging, right? Yes. So, well, I agree. Another point as well. Actually, throughout my experience, people have been asking me, well, I don't feel like sharing my personal story. That's too much to share, and it's too personal. So basically, it's our job to figure out which ones we are comfortable sharing and which details to leave out. Obviously, we do not want to go through every details. And we could even make like some kind of analogy. It doesn't have to be the truest story. Perhaps you would like to talk about your divorce or something like that. And you feel like, oh, that's too personal to be shared. And it's something that it doesn't appear good on you. So we could actually share it in the form of analogy, how you lost a game and you would like to go back up. And it will be very interesting and inspiring to share with your audience. And how do we usually find out the stories? Based on my experience, I write a short summary of my best anecdotes and make some sort of a catalog. So a catalog of personal anecdotes. I usually sort them by mood, situation, moral messages. So by the time I'm planning my next talk, the stories are ready to use. For example, if I would like to train some employees in a company, and then it's about how we would build perseverance in them. Right? We would like to choose some story that will suit the message. Perhaps we could try to figure out something that how we failed, let's say the biggest challenge in our life, perhaps how we get rejected all the time in our job interviews and how we failed some projects, but then we were able to get back up and even better. So that's basically the story that we need to sort based on the purpose as well. Yes, all right. So to conclude the whole point, I hope, dear listeners, you are all still with me.
Yeah, of course. We are still with you. Don't worry.
All right. So the whole point is storytelling. This is the point about storytelling. It is definitely a must. It is a powerful tool to deliver your message, to connect with the audience through emotional appeal. Because when we inspire people, it's different from educational session. When it's just like educational, the purpose is basically to inform, perhaps inspire a little bit so people would just take action. But when we would like to inspire, we need to tap into emotions as well. So there are different types of speeches, as I also teach my students. There are different purposes of speeches as well. Some speech we just need to persuade them. It involves logic, but in order to inspire audience, it involves the most emotion. So when we actually tap into the emotional appeal, it leaves a mark in people's heart. They will always remember. Trust me, they will always remember. So Rick Warren actually said, I would like to quote Rick Warren as well because this is very inspiring for me personally. When you share your experiences with other people, you help take away their fears.
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah.
It's so deep.
Yeah.
So deep, yeah. For me, it's really deep because when we actually would like to try something, we would like to stand in front of people. We have so many fears, like fear of the unknown responses from the audience, fear of public speaking itself. So when we actually try to inspire people, we contribute to our self-growth and at the same time, we take away their fears, fear of trying new things as well for the audience. All right, so that's about storytelling. The second thing that I would like to talk about is understanding your target audience. So this is also one of the major points in inspiring our audience. Of course, we actually talked about storytelling earlier. So I would like to discuss a little bit on how exactly we select our stories, which one to be used in any kind of speeches, talks, or presentations. Selecting anecdotes depend highly on the target audience. So when it comes to understanding your audience, there are 4 factors that you really need to take into account before you deliver your speech. The first is the audience point of view. What kind of people they are, for example. Will they agree with this point? Will it cause disagreement? And the second is demographics, like the age, gender, what else? Cultural background, ethnicity, or even socioeconomic status. Like, are they like middle, high, or lower social status? Employment status, are they student, professionals, chef? So it's really important. And the third thing is their goals, like what they want to achieve in life, whether they want to basically improve their career or they would like to implement public speaking or communication skills in the household field, just like a local community. And lastly, it is also important to figure out the relevance of the target audience, what they want to learn exactly. So that's what we call relevance anyway. So I think in order to make it clearer, I would like to share one example. So let's say your audience is a group of aspiring entrepreneurs. So they want to be entrepreneurs. It will be more relatable to share stories about how you built your business, although you failed several times, then you figured out your true purpose, and then you rebuilt your business. And this time it is more than successful. So what I could guess that the first response of your audience would be, oh, that sounds wonderful. I'm inspired to reinvent my purpose and bring out the best of myself. However, imagine with the same target audience, you shared the story about how hard it is to live as an academician, for example. how to publish a scientific journal. Okay, got confused already. What are you talking about? You shared a story about how hard it is to live, and my journal keeps on getting rejection. And then, of course, your story is out of place. Nobody would like to hear it at all. So, inspiring talks or speeches are not only about the speakers. As much as we would like to tell our audience, oh, this is my success story, but as much as we also need to basically reevaluate which anecdotes, which personal stories would suit my audience needs. We want to include our audience in it, so it's all about the audience. It is indeed crucial to leave the audience's world. So if your audience are mostly businessmen, then you need to live as a businessman. That's why also in most of the talks or seminar, we will see that the speaker would be someone who is creditable. For example, if the audience is businessman, then the one who will be invited to the talk is also a successful businessman. So it's indeed crucial to pay attention to the audience, because everything that we say, the way we choose to say it, it's all should be about your listeners, our listeners. When we talk to students, perhaps we wouldn't use such formal language, right? Just to make them feel like they're included in the talk. Okay, we could be a bit like more, I would say, into a warm kind of personality. Hey, yo, what have you been doing? So personal stories, again, should be shared with your audience in a way that benefits your listeners and gives them something to better their life. All right. So we've actually discussed 2 points up until now about storytelling and also about about knowing our audience. I still have 2 more points. I hope you're all still excited to
Yes, of course.
move on.
We still give our ears a focus.
All
Yes,
ears.
yeah.
Okay. All right, that's great. So the next point is how to basically we make our audience feel engaged in the talk. So in any kind of talk, it is actually easy when we say, okay, we need to share a story. We need to basically know who our audience is. But the question is how to keep them engaged, because that's actually part of how we deliver inspiring speeches. So the first step to engage our audience is by giving them a strong reason to listen to our speech or our talk. It's just like what I did at the beginning of this talk by addressing how inspiring others could be really useful. And another way you could do in order to engage your audience is, again, related to the first point. You could share a story right away to excite them of what comes next. So that's one of it. However, dear listeners, since people's attention spans keep on wavering, they need to be introduced to a variety of things to stay focused on one thing. It might sound a bit absurd. What? In order to stay focused on one thing, we need to introduce a variety of things? But that's actually the truth, because based on my experience, if it's just a talk without engaging with the audience, without asking questions, then it will be very flat. So the variety of things that we could actually introduce, it could be like incorporating visual aids. So if it's live or on-site presentation, we could give some kind of slides, pictures, or use props. We could also incorporate like figure of speech, metaphor, and we could also raise audience participation by asking questions, by playing some kind of a mini game, asking just like, oh, I have 100 audience here, and I am interested to know where you guys are from. Okay, like playing such mini game. And one of the most practical way is by applying vocal variety. So if I talk in this monotonous voice, that will be very, very disinteresting, right? Not interesting at all. So it is actually very, very important to, vary your tone right? Imagine if I talk for 30 minutes and just like monotonous tone.
It will be bored. Yeah.
Everyone is sleeping.
Yeah, especially it's like so early in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, applying focal variety and also effective gestures that happens if it's actually live on site. So last but not least, that's the third point, and then we would like to move on to the next one, which is the key of everything. It is to be well prepared.
Oh.
So just like the famous saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Could you repeat again?
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Unfortunately, I forgot the famous people who said this quote, but yeah, I was able to take the main message. So, drafting your speech or presentation is the key step. You may need to make a checklist and ask yourself, have you understood the target audience? Have you included a personal anecdote? Have you made your message clear? So, consistent rehearsal and the next key step. It allows you to increase your confidence and polish your skills, also ensures you are familiar with your materials. Some of you might actually be wondering, should I memorize the whole script? Well, not necessarily, but you should rehearse enough to know exactly what you are going to talk about. You should remember the major key points. Because again, if you actually too focus on your script, you will not make any eye contact. But eye contact is actually very important because your audience want to feel that you're having a conversation with them. You want to speak to your audience, not at your audience. So, yes.
Yeah.
So what I would usually do as part of my rehearsal, I would actually give you some practical tips. I would record myself and evaluate the recording afterwards. I would also let somebody listen to my speech or presentation to get some feedback, preferably someone reliable. So that's also why I joined Toastmasters. My home club is Surabaya Heroes Toastmasters Club. That's where I am able to practice my speech, learn about the audience's responses, and receive feedback from my evaluators. In Toastmasters, I've also had some mentors who are ready to help me sharpen my public speaking skills. I learned a lot about giving inspiring speeches in Toastmasters. It's like trials and errors, trials and errors. It wouldn't be like, okay, the first shot and then you're successful.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, joining Toastmasters is by far my best decisions. One of the best decisions that I've ever made.
Oh.
Yes. Are you curious to know?
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so that's basically, those are the points that I would like to talk about or share to you. So I hope you still remember. The first is we need to share personal stories and we need to select the stories based on our needs or the audience. And then second is knowing our audience. Third is basically we keep them engaged in with variety of things. And then the last one is the most important, be well prepared. Practice, practice. All right, so to close this talk, I believe that it's more than 30 minutes.
Okay.
So
It is like short.
Yeah. I didn't even realize
Okay.
that we are already to 30 minutes actually.
oh, well, that's because Mbak Yana has this kind of enthusiasm to learn.
Ooh.
Well, dear listeners, to close this talk, I would like to summarize the points that we've covered so far. So to inspire means to influence people to take action on their own. Successful leaders need to inspire other people by tapping their emotions. There are 4 tips that I shared earlier. First is sharing stories. Second, understanding your audience. Keep your audience engaged. And last is be prepared. Plan, practice, practice, practice. I will call it 4 Ps. All the practice, keep repeating anyway. So I hope listening to this talk wouldn't be useful if there isn't any action taken. So perhaps Toastmasters can be the right platform for you to learn to be inspiring speakers. You will learn how to craft a speech from scratch, get the chance to practice with a mentor or more, and receive feedback to improve. Or if you're still hesitant, then still the first step for you is to plan and try to rehearse on your own. So to close this session, I would like to share a very meaningful quote. Another quote, yay, because I love quotes. From John Henry Smith. No man become rich without himself enriching others. No man can empower his life unless he empowers the lives of others. So fellow leaders, my dear listeners, be inspired and inspire others. And thank you for listening. I would give the control back to our amazing Bayana and Mas Isak.
Awesome. Wow.
Wow.
How do you feel after you listen about this?
Amazing.
I feel like it's really short. I don't feel like 30 minutes already passed.
Yeah, I feel that it is like 10 minutes.
Yeah. We are just busy take notes and listen and getting excited and suddenly it's over. Oh my god. Okay then.
Oh my God. Okay.
So, either.
So, Yana, you know that we have to stop a while.
Oh,
After
yeah?
this, we will keep the chance for listeners or callers. So you can take a part in this program, especially in education. So you can ask everything that you want to ask. So if you're interested, please contact our number 08123493939. I'll collaborate it 08123493939, or you can
Visit our
visit
Instagram.
Yeah. Now we are live.
We
in
do live
streaming,
broadcast.
Yeah,
Mhm.
in Radio El Victor Instagram. Okay.
Yeah.
Yana, stay tuned.
In this program, English by Radio 711 from El Victor. Alright, ongoing on 8:41, and we still together with Miss Lisa after her amazing educational session.
Yay.
Yeah, and we still feel excited. There are a lot of questions already come to us about her speech just now, and most of people are curious about this. One of them is from Eleos Theophilus, or he said that he is familiar with E.T.
Yeah.
He asked you about this question. What is your one story that you use most in your speech? Maybe you can give us such a story about that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much,
E.T.
E.T., for your wonderful question. Now I'm really eager to share my experience. One of the stories that I use the most in any kind of situation, first of all, it is one of the stories where I feel the most miserable in life due to a sickness that I would not want to basically have in life. Like nobody wants to be ill, right? In our life. So I have this one history of having a lower back pain, which actually hinders me from my daily activity. And it's actually frustrating enough, I guess, for all listeners as well to figure out, oh my goodness, that sounds terrible. You have to fight with it. At the same time, I had to lose my job at that time because I couldn't actually function in daily life. So in that kind of despair, I was actually inviting the audience, trying to inspire them that that's not basically the end of the world. So at that time, although I had to stay home for a long time, I had to receive treatment for, I guess, more than 6 months. Like I have to stay home for more than 6 months. I couldn't do anything, and of course, I was just a fresh graduate at the time, so the dream job that I've always wanted in my life, I managed to actually land on it, right? But then I had to lose it. So actually the story of how you gain something and then you lost it and then you try to rediscover yourself, it is a story that could relate to just anybody. So I could use it in most of my inspiring speeches, even in speech contest. It is actually the speech that brought me to international stage.
Wow.
It was in, I guess, I feel shy now. I guess it was in 2018. So it was the speech that actually brought me to Malaysia, Kuching.
Wow.
And although I didn't win the contest by the time, it was the final stage, right? But I didn't win the contest. But I was actually very, I myself, when I delivered it, I felt inspired because some people actually approached me and said, wow, you are a strong individual. I should learn from you. And your speech was really inspiring. So I guess this answer got extended a little bit, but yeah, that's the main point. So that was the story that I used the most in many kind of situation. Yeah, even in perhaps in when I need to give a talk with the job seeker or scholarship seeker, that's actually one of the story that I could use, like how I lost something, but then I regain it, and it's even better now.
Oh, great. Yeah, so basically, the struggle always make people feels like, oh my God, I just feel like that. So people can relate to our story, and because people relate, people understand how that feeling, it makes people want to, oh, if she could do that, then I guess I also can do that.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Wow, that's great to hear about it. And Kak Iti, I hope you satisfied with the answer.
Yeah, I hope it answers your question.
And then the next question is for me because I'm really excited to do that. So, Kak Lisa, how to prevent oversharing feeling? Because whenever we are going to do the storytelling about ourselves, we usually tends to get more private in sharing, and people will think, "Oh my God, that's oversharing." So, how do we prevent to feel like, "Oh, it's oversharing"? To just trust ourselves with our story. How to do that?
That's actually one great question, Bayana. And it is very relatable to the society nowadays where people actually overshare stuff online.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Right? Like, so I really like that question. I hope that I could answer it based on my experience, but perhaps I'm not an expert in, like oversharing things, stories in answering this question, but I'll just try. So, I would say that we could leave out some details that could basically, that is too private for us. So, for example, if it's about us, it's still all right. But if it is related to other people. So let's say when we want to talk about how we get up from a failed marriage, for example, or failed relationship, we should actually avoid talking about other people, like our partner, for example. Yeah. So it is okay to actually talk about our inner feeling, how we feel devastated at that time, how we felt like we could have done better in that relationship, for example, because relationship is somehow a sensitive topic, right? You feel like, oh, that's too embarrassing to share, but it is actually okay to share it to just some extent. So we could actually let people know our feeling, what we felt at that time, because it is the most relatable to what people usually feel in a failed relationship. Okay, but we wouldn't share into details what actually happens in it, like how it is a failure, So we do not go into deep to the how. Okay, we could actually just explore our personal feeling. And we could cut some details. We go right to how we actually overcome that crisis. So that's what I usually do. I actually shared a story before when I failed a subject in a university. It is something that is quite embarrassing for me, especially, right? But throughout the time when I rehearse, when I think of it, when I plan and leave out some details of how I actually failed, but I focus more on why and explore my feelings and how I overcome that failure by being even more empowered to do things, even more motivated to study. So that's it. That's how I usually avoid oversharing stuff. Well, at first it felt a bit uncomfortable because when the first time I joined Toastmasters, that is also actually the first time when I tried this kind of speech, which is inspiring speech. And that was also the time when I went into the public speaking public speaking field, and I pursue a career as the freelance public speaking coach as well. So at first I felt like, oh, it's really awkward to share personal stories. It's really, really awkward, like what to share, what not to share. But then throughout the time, I figured out by listening to other people's speech as well, by learning from each other as well, I know that, okay, this should not be shared and this should be shared. And it is okay to share our feeling, especially. Okay, we might feel awkward, but when we actually try to do it, it's like, oh, it's actually all right. And if it can empower people, why not? I hope it answers your question, Bayana.
Yeah. So basically, we need to just trust ourselves about that. We know the boundaries about what we should share and what we shouldn't share.
That's right. If you have someone whom you can trust, you could actually try to ask this person first. What would be your response if I tell you the story about this? Is it something too personal for you? Because when we actually deliver personal stories, it's not only about we who feel comfortable or not. It should be about our audience as well, whether they will feel comfortable listening to such story, right? So it's important to have like a small group of people or just a person that you can trust, and you could share this story with him or her and ask whether it's all right or not. So that's why the existence of a mentor. Yeah, I think it is very important as well.
Okay.
You need a mentor.
Thank you. I already have one actually.
Who's that?
Oh,
Ooh, secret. Okay, thank you so much for answering my question. It's really helped me a lot to get enlightenment about that problem, because a lot of people nowadays, like people around me also, sometimes they're oversharing on social media. Now, yes, Mr. Isak, do you by any chance have any questions?
So here there is a message from who's that? Ayu, yeah.
Oh, Ibu Ayu.
Hi, Sat, Yana, and Victor. Thank you again. I'm listening to one of the most popular creative channels. You are inspiring. Thank you to Toastmasters in Surabaya too. My regards to Jonathan and Lisa. All the best, Victor and Toastmasters.
Oh, thank you so much, Bu Ayu.
Bu Ayu.
Maybe Bu Ayu, if you have free time, you can also visit our radio in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Jonathan.
Oh yeah, Kak Jonathan is always here.
Take her. Okay.
Yeah.
The second question.
Oh yeah.
You have one.
We still have time for that?
Yeah, maybe
Of
for
course.
5 minutes.
Yeah. This is actually related to all people who usually have really hectic schedule. How to be well prepared in such a short time?
Yeah. That's
Miss Lisa.
Wow, very insightful question and very relatable every time. In such fast-changing world, we are actually juggling between activities, right? That's what actually happening to me as well. So my best advice or suggestion is by setting priority. So do you know the one most interesting thing that I've heard recently? In the past, the word priority is just singular, but nowadays it turns to be plural because we actually have a lot to do in life compared to people in the past. So it's actually very understandable if it's hard for us to basically manage our time. But at the same time, it is also the skill that we need to master. So in order to be successful, time management is also very important. For me, I like to set priorities and I do not wait until the last minute. So,
that's the problem.
So
Yeah.
I am actually against the popular belief that that you gain the last minute power. So I am actually against that belief. What I would usually do, I'm a planner. So I usually set the schedule. Okay, a week from now I'll have a talk in a radio. So I need to prepare at least on Tuesday. I have to spare half an hour, and then on Wednesday I have to prepare. I have to spare like 10 minutes. So just allocate our time whenever we think it's possible. I think that will be the major key in time management. And of course, setting priority. Let's say if you have so much free time, but then again, it is not on your priority list, then it's the same thing. So you need to move that task on the top of your priority. I need to prepare. I have to take, like, for example, 15 minutes of slot on this day. And then the next 2 days, I will have in between before my first activity and the second activity. I would perhaps have like 10 minutes. Then it will be more than enough for us to rehearse, to practice. So that's what I usually do.
That was our problem actually.
You have
Time
to try to
management.
learn.
Yeah, time management is quite hard for
Yeah.
those who always do a procrastinated.
Yes. Actually, I have a very wonderful quote that I always, again, the quote, that I always have, that I always keep in mind whenever I want to, just be lazy and be Coach Potato. Every time I have this quote, procrastination is a thief of time. So,
That's
Don't
what
do that.
I need.
Don't do that.
and so whenever I remember it, okay, I need to get up and
Yeah. Don't do that.
I'm taking notes right now.
Yeah.
Procrastination is a thief of time.
yes, that's a good start, but Yana.
Okay. Nice. Okay, Yana.
Why?
The last one, maybe we have 4 minutes. So, could you tell her that we have to stop, and maybe the last word from Miss Lisa Octavia?
Yeah, it's sadly that we only have 1 hour and we didn't feel it's an hour already. So, Miss Lisa, last word and your impression about this program.
Yeah, and of course, you can tell about your
What makes you be
Yeah.
a good public speaker?
Wow. All right. Thank you very much. And my impression about this program is that I think it is something really useful, especially on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Even though you're still on your bed, it's all right to tune in and listen to this kind of program. It has been really useful. And I'm actually glad that in Surabaya, we have this program that would teach us English, And of course, practicing language is not only about knowing the technicalities, but we also need to practice. Right? We need to be engaged. So I think this radio program is just amazing. Keep going.
Ooh, thank
Yeah.
you.
I will be your loyal listeners.
Ooh,
Thank you.
We have any loyal listeners.
All right. And to close this talk, I would like to invite our dear listeners, if you feel like you are able to inspire people and you would like to learn more about public speaking skills or also communication skills in English, especially, it will be great to join Toastmasters International. My home club is Surabaya Heroes. So if you are curious what Toastmasters is, we will guide you basically step by step. It is an organization that is widely known in the world. Even in Surabaya, we have more than 10 clubs, if I'm not mistaken. So basically what we do in every meeting, as I mentioned earlier, learning languages, learning skills like public speaking and leadership skills, it cannot be just done through reading or looking at or watching YouTube videos, but it has to be done by practice. So in Toastmasters meeting, what we usually do, we usually have practice. It is basically a platform for us who would like to learn. We can deliver speeches. We have trials and errors. It's the safest place to make a mistake. So if you have like important talk you would like to practice in Toastmasters, you are very welcome to come to basically attend the meeting. You could even attend as a guest first, and there are many amazing people there. Mbak Yana, Joe, Jonathan. So yes, and we also provide mentors. So that's the essence of Toastmasters. If you're curious to find out more, you could just DM El Victor.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. And I think last but not least, I would like to thank everybody, dear listeners, for tuning in today, listening to my talk. I really appreciate it. And for Mbak Yana and Mas Isak as the host, and also Joe as the bodyguard.
And also,
and also Kevin as the special speaker in the previous session. So what I really hope to do for the future, for in the near future, is to keep on inspiring everybody, and I really hope that by doing so, we could actually have some kind of like self growth and self fulfillment, and I would encourage all the listeners here to do the same thing too. So thank you for listening. It's such a pleasure. See you again next time.
Yay! Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Miss Lisa. Wow, it's really beautiful morning. So,
yes.
it's the end of our educational session with Miss Lisa. See, an hour is not enough for educational session.
It's short. Very, very short.
But for our speaker, oh my god, I'm already so tired.
Oh.
You can ask later. Alright guys,
Okay.
because of the time and we need to give you commercial break. So don't forget, we still have our theme for today. Stay tuned in this program, English by Radio 711 from El Victor.